So describe, even for those who are just listening on audio, the moose in the background and the genesis of that image.
Yeah, it's this. Well, the painting is called Serenity because it paints this serene scene of a moose that's passing through this snowy forest. And what I really wanted to capture, if you've ever spent time in a snowy forest where I don't, it's almost like diamond dust or
Oh, yeah.
fairy sprinkles, and there's these little glistens of snowflakes in the air, but it's not really snowing. But there's a time when the sun's setting and it's filtering the light through the trees and capturing all those glistening ice crystals. That's what I am trying to capture in this painting.
Yeah.
And to also maybe soften the dangerous feelings that people might feel when they see a moose, because moose are, they're big and they're dangerous, but they're also majestic.
Martians landed.
Yes.
Wearing Prada suits.
Yes.
Drinking Henry's seltzer.
Yes.
Chewing juicy fruit.
Yes, and?
Your branding here.
Yes, brand.
Your message here.
Yes, and?
A verse about
Yes.
your product here.
Yes.
I'm Hirsch Redmond.
Yes, and?
I'm a message therapist.
Yes.
And I have a podcast.
Yes, brand.
That's right, that's it.
Yes.
We'll help you fix the world.
Yes.
Or your bottom line.
All right.
Your bottom line.
Get it. I get it. Welcome to the Yes Brand Podcast.
I'm speaking to a wildlife artist and gallery owner, James Corwin, who is my guest on this season, this very special season 7 of Yes Brand. We're going really not only into branding and business, but also into kind of the humanity and the almost bigger than life aspects of some of the pursuits that we engage in. You know, there's us and there's our personal brand, what kind of functions as a representative of what we do. And then there's our business or businesses. And we're going to talk about how all that stuff comes together. James, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
It's awesome to have you. Now, you are in your gallery, Corwin Galleries,
Mhm.
is in Montana's Bitterroot Valley, right?
Yes. Yes.
Which, if you've seen like the television series Yellowstone, you get
Hmm.
a sense of some of that grandeur.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
for the audience, give us a little kind of quick study of your style, what your work is, and how you came to pursue that as a career.
Sure. I paint wildlife now and have been for maybe the last 5 years. I've been painting professionally for 10 years full time. Prior to that, I was painting landscapes. But with wildlife, I feel like I can tell more of a story and create more emotion through the animals that we really can relate to and personify ourselves in. So I felt I could create a more successful painting if I was painting wildlife versus landscapes.
Yeah.
And how I got into painting, well, I didn't really know I could paint until I was a senior in high school. I took an art class as an elective credit, is something that I thought would be fun to do, and found I had a knack for drawing, I suppose, and painting. And my art teacher encouraged me to apply for this art scholarship for college, which I did. I actually thought I was going to do music and musical scoring, composing. And the most of the colleges I applied to was for that program for music. And I ended up getting this art scholarship, which had the stipulation that you had to get a degree in art to keep the scholarship. So
Oh,
yeah,
right.
so like a couple of months before I was going to the picking the school I was going to, I had to find their art program and move into that, which I did. And people ask me though, did you learn to paint through school? But I feel I learned to paint through time and practice and self-teaching,
Well,
even
it's
though I
interesting.
have a degree.
Yeah, yeah, but it's interesting because it sounds to me like you were a creative person by
Hmm.
nature. If you were already going into a creative field, but
Hmm.
didn't, like when I was a little kid, I did a lot of drawings, but I didn't have that sense that was my core skill or anything. Like I had
Hmm.
friends who could do one of them is an animator now, and David Walker and I
Cool.
directed the film Leo with Adam
Wow.
Sandler. And
Very cool.
yeah, he was always like just one of those people that just whips those sketches up. I didn't feel that at all in my case. I was like struggling with every, I used to draw superheroes. I would struggle with every muscle, every the toe pointing one way and the other foot pointing. There was a way to draw superheroes, and I just was like, I
Totally.
can't really. They don't look like normal superheroes, but you know, so with music, what was
Hmm.
were you kind of steered one way or another at home in terms of pursuing the arts?
Mm, not necessarily. I feel I was very privileged to grow up in an environment where I could explore my creativity. I did go to Montessori school for K through sixth grade, and that was very much self-exploration and learning and being creative. So I think just from a very early age, just interacting with my environment in a creative way was is what I did. I grew up in the mountains and the forest, and we didn't have TV or internet, or we had movies. I didn't have video games. So to entertain myself, I would go outside and play in the forest and be creative and make up, games for myself, I guess.
Yeah, but
Or study the animals. I loved all the wildlife we had.
okay. So now was this in Montana?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now give us a sense of how rural and foresty was it?
Hmm.
what was the environment like? School, town, whatever
Sure.
was.
Yeah, the house was on 5 acres, but it butted up against so much more land that I could walk out my back door into the mountains, into the forest, and not see another house. But I always felt pretty good with my surroundings. I never got lost, and I had a dog and my brother, and we would just, you know, map mentally our backyards and where we would explore. And I also found it was 30 minutes outside of school. So it was a long way for like my parents to
Yeah.
drive us to do, any sports or things like that. So my brother and I, we didn't do any sports either. We basically would be driven to school 30 minutes away and then get picked up after school and brought home. It wasn't until I started doing extracurricular activities in high school when I had my own vehicle.
Now, where was the nearest family to where you lived?
My grandparents in the summer would come to Montana, and they had a house on Flathead Lake, which
Hmm.
is gorgeous, huge lake here in Montana. It's beautiful. It's crystal clear. So we would spend summers there on the water, or Glacier Park is just a half hour from the house. So we were hiking a lot, backpacking every weekend, going out on fishing trips, just very much in the outdoors. And which is why I think I find myself most happy being outside
Yeah, I was going to say
in nature.
yeah, it makes sense that you would feel really quite at ease,
Hmm.
among the wildlife, but you loved music as well.
Hmm.
And so what role does music play in your life today?
I don't write as much music as I used to, and I'm always listening to music when I'm painting or podcasts. But if I'm listening to music, it's often tailored to the mood that I'm painting or what I'm feeling as I'm painting, almost like a soundtrack to a movie.
Yeah.
And my paintings also feel like movies to me. And I often hear the sound or what I might compose musically for that painting.
Yeah. Well,
So I
there's
try to
something.
find music that matches that.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I totally relate because when I'm writing, I am very
Oh,
particular
yeah,
about the kind of
definitely.
music that I have on. When I'm
Hmm.
writing, if I'm working on a book, it's very different than if I'm working on something that's maybe going to be a 20-minute,
Hmm.
piece of content or who knows what. It's
Exactly.
funny because I've seen that moose picture now, that painting probably 3 times that I've
I
because we right because it's
I,
recent. You just finished
yep.
it. But every time I look at it, including now, I just assume it's a window. It looks like a window. It
Yeah,
looks like
yeah.
the
I
moose
like
is
that.
outside the window, and in my mind, it creates an entire context for your studio.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
now, first of all, it's summer now when we're
I know.
recording this. So even if it was a little chilly or rainy, it doesn't look like that outside your window probably right now. But
No,
that's
thankfully
what it
not.
yeah, but that's what it creates. Snow,
Hmm.
a moose,
Yes.
and you can almost feel it. With the
Hmm.
music thing, I was just interviewing as part of our season here,
Hmm.
Bill Protzman, who created something called Musimorphic, which uses music to help you achieve the things you want to achieve in your life in a very kind of organic way. It's really fascinating. But the role that the senses play in
Mm.
what you do and what you do for a living is really inspiring because I think so many of us segment our lives where, let's say what I'm doing is based on what's on the screen, and that's my
Yeah,
job. My job
right.
is the screen and the keyboard and whatever is
Hmm.
on there. And there's a
Yeah,
lot of people that go through that and then they go out in the woods to clear their head.
yeah.
Whereas your world is kind of integrated
Hmm.
into
Hmm.
uh, you know um, into when you create your art. Now, how do you create your art when you're painting something?
Hmm.
What's the process?
Yeah, I think when you were describing all that, I was thinking, if I can say this, I feel like I'm a very sensual person. I like to
Yeah,
experience all the senses, and like I'm the kind of person that goes in a shop and wants to smell every single candle, you know.
yeah,
So that very much is felt through my work because as I'm creating an idea, I want the viewer, you, to feel what I'm feeling.
yeah,
And so how that process works is I'll come up with an idea like a moose that I want to paint, but I don't know exactly what this moose is doing yet or what the scene even looks like. It's more of maybe the feeling that I want to go through for serenity, for example. And I began to compose that, to craft that image. And I'm on Photoshop and I'm, you know, pulling images and sourcing all these things and cutting out and moving things around to build this image. So a lot of artists, wildlife artists, are going out and taking the photos of the wildlife, which I do
right.
sometimes. But if I have a good photo of a bison, it might be a crappy background. And I'm going to take that bison, I'm going to put it into a setting that's something maybe you've never seen before. And this bison has to have some sort of emotional aspect to it that makes you really, you know, feel drawn and pulled in and want to share this moment with the painting. So it is a very fun process, but it takes time to create something because again, I don't know what it looks like, but I know what it feels like, and I'll
Yeah,
know I have crafted the image when it hits me. That feeling, I'm like, that's it, there it is.
yeah. It's an amazing feeling. It's like a gear locking into place. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you kind
Yeah,
of, you
exactly.
clicks. And because I have that feeling, I have it visually when I'm looking for imagery to accompany an article or story or something.
Right.
And I see an image and I go, oh, that's it. That's it.
Yes,
Sometimes you
that's
see
it.
an
Yep.
image, and I'm not creating the image per se. I'm looking through stock imagery,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a fun process because I'm like, oh, that's it. And how would it fit when there's no connection, right? I wrote the
Yeah.
story. Now I'm looking for something that blends maybe two or three themes, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
creating it in AI. I'm looking for the image as it is because I love
Mm-hmm.
when someone like you creates an image and then that has all the different inputs and it's special. It's just kind of a singular thing, which
Yes,
which kind of
exactly.
leads us to, you know, the brand, the Corwin
Mm-hmm.
Galleries brand. It's new. You're a young artist and a young brand. And we talked about this. And that's one of the things that really interests me because you're building it. You're building this brand
Mm-hmm.
as we speak. Talk a little bit about what the Corwin Galleries means to you. And I know you had opened another gallery in Aspen, right?
Yes, yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that turned out to be, let's say, an experience, a part of the journey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But we can get into that. But tell me, if I were to say, well, what is the Corwin Galleries? That's a different question than saying what. How do you create your art, right? So,
Yes, yeah.
what is the Corwin Galleries as a business, as a brand?
It is a couple things that come to mind as my brand with James Corwin Fine Art and Corwin Galleries. So much of my success, apart from the painting, I've found has been around the customer experience, the customer service, and just creating an experience that goes above and beyond what a customer is usually experiencing these days, and creating, opportunities to show the utmost respect and build loyalty. And so much of that then extends to, getting reviews online or, um, word of mouth and stuff. But Corwin Galleries, for example, when somebody walks in, they're greeted by, and I train the people who work in the galleries to do this, greeted like as if those people are family and friends, and just creating this very welcoming environment. And, if they want, a drink or, a warm hand towel, anything that we can provide to them to give them a better experience. The smells, again, sensual. We have good smells and good music, and I just want people to walk in and just feel so comfortable and at home. And it doesn't matter whether you're there to buy a piece of art or not. We treat you just the same as anyone else. There's so many galleries that I go into these days where the attendant hardly even acknowledges my existence or talks to me, and it just feels so sterile. And I don't know if I'm being qualified as a buyer or not because I'm young. I don't buy, they think, oh, he's not here to drop 20 grand, but I could, and I do. But you wouldn't know that if you didn't try talking to me,
Right,
you know?
right.
So I don't want to make assumptions on customers either. And then back to just my own art, I love calling my customers after they place just a print order. And these are people who see my ad online on Facebook. They go to my website, they buy a print, for 250 bucks. But then I pick up the phone, I call them just to say thank you. And they're always so surprised because they're like, wow, nobody calls anymore. I'm like, well, yeah, you bought my piece of art and I want to tell you thank you and that I'm a real person, you know, and I want to give you the best product I have. And I'm so excited for you to, get this new painting because it means so much to me when somebody, wants to spend money to acquire something that I've created. I think that it's a beautiful transaction.
I was just going to say, it's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing to do.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think if I've ever had that experience. I'm looking at a piece that my wife got for me that is really unique in my office, and it wasn't an artist I knew. And I'm
Hmm.
trying to remember if I might have gotten a note or something like that. It was not, it was a similar thing, you know, a couple $100. It
Yeah.
was like a fancy thing. But that
Hmm.
connection is what so many of us want. And I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
across this season, I'm talking to people, and ultimately, connection comes up. And it's either
Hmm.
customer service, like it starts with
Hmm.
maybe customer service. Sometimes it starts with, well, you know, if they're service provider or an app developer, they want
Hmm.
people to connect with what they're building, what they're developing, but it may be millions of people, right? Not just, you
Yeah.
know, now if you have millions of people buying your prints, it may be pretty busy day on the phone. You may just want to dedicate
Yeah.
one day a week to making all those
I have
phone
thought
calls.
about that.
Hi, this is
When
James
it
Corwin.
gets
I
too
just wanted to say
busy.
thank you. Learn how to speed talk. I just want to
I
say
know.
thank you for, but
Get a
the,
little AI voice recording. No, I'm
yeah,
kidding. That
but
defeats the purpose.
yeah, what I think we're most in danger of losing.
Yeah,
Now,
it's so
let's
true.
segue a little bit into this because I really like the way your mind works in terms of the artist and the proprietor, you know, the artist
Hmm.
and the business person. And I think that we have to learn, you know, as artists to do business. And we have to learn as
Hmm.
business people to appreciate the art of even what we do in business. You know, I believe entrepreneurs are artists, they're
Oh
creators.
yeah. Oh
They're
yeah.
not, they think
Absolutely.
about it, they're passionate. They are usually not super risk averse. They're willing to take
Hmm.
chances, or they would work for someone else that'll pay
Yeah.
them, you know, to do whatever they do. Um,
And
they
you have to be
want,
creative, really
yes,
creative.
so tell us a little bit of this Aspen adventure story and what you learned, because a lot of the people
Yeah.
listening are going to totally relate. They're trying to figure out scale, they're trying to figure out
Hmm.
brand and business.
Yeah.
So yeah, share
Yeah.
if you would. I appreciate your sharing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I try to mitigate as much risk as I can in the business, but I also want to do things and try things and not just wonder what if or should I. So I um, had the gallery running in Hamilton for a number of years and have been wanting to open a second location and was looking in different markets such as Dallas and different markets in Colorado, but I was more looking specifically for a space that's in good foot traffic and I can get in and set up a gallery in a week. I don't want to be, trying to do a full build out, or if it was like a previous kitchen space and there's like the kitchen, not to get too detailed, but yeah, just a space I can get in and set up a gallery quickly and we just start the ball running because I have all the artwork, I have the artists. The wonderful thing about owning a gallery is that most of the inventory is on consignment, so you don't have to buy a lot of inventory up front. So it can be a low cost model to get into. Where the overheads get high is obviously rent, like in Aspen, and employee salaries. And this perfect space came up in Aspen, so I that was one of the markets I was looking at getting into. So I jumped on it and got the gallery set up in a week and went through a bunch of interviews even before I signed a lease on the space and had a person in place. And what I didn't account for in all my research was the amount of stress that it would create in my life trying to manage and run this thing afar with challenging employees and days when the sales cycle and the foot traffic was something I wasn't used to. um, you know, I looking back, I should have done more research on how people walk in Aspen and what times they walk and what times they
Yeah.
go out, and then how long it takes for somebody to buy a piece of art. It's very different than Montana. But these are things you learn by doing. Anyway, so it created enormous amounts of stress. I started getting stress rashes all over my body. I was going to hospital. Had this like a counselor person who was like putting me on anti-anxiety meds and stuff. And yeah, I was losing sleep. I remember in February, in the height of the best time to have the gallery there during ski season, the employee gives his 2-day notice to leave, and then I have the place on staff. So I'm like flying out there back and forth to try and keep this place open and have a life in Montana. And do I move here? And then it's such a funny story, but I swear I was like getting desperate to try and figure this thing out. So I talked to a psychic, and she says there's 2 gals that are going to come your way soon who want to partner with you on the space and help you. And
Yeah.
sure enough, they showed up. And one was a jeweler and one was like sales rep. And so she was able to come in and we were able to build out the whole jewelry side of the gallery too. And I was able to start to adopt her team into the gallery too. So we were able to turn it around quickly and get it working again. But through running it for a year, I just realized that, wow, I'm so glad I did this. I learned a lot. It was great, but I don't need the second location to, I guess, I don't know. I'm sure I scratched an itch, but it didn't
Yeah.
fulfill me in any way. It made money, but it wasn't enough to like keep me going around the sun another year.
Well, the lesson sometimes with this stuff is that it's not what we wanted. It isn't
Exactly.
necessarily that we couldn't do it. I think you
Yeah.
struck me when we first connected as someone who is not big on giving up or saying,
Mm-mm.
I can't, but you figured out a way to make it work, but you also analyzed it and thought, this isn't what I envisioned
Yeah.
necessarily.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and it does take its toll when we are doing scale is a fascinating thing because
Hmm.
what it really means is it's like multiplicity, like that movie where you just make you clones of yourself.
Yeah.
And it would be great if you
Yeah.
had maybe 2 James Corwins at that location, maybe
Yeah.
another couple where you are, and then you could
Exactly.
be doing your art. And then
Yeah.
there'd be 5 of you total, and that would be scale. And then
Hmm.
if you don't have to pay them, you're only cutting one check. So then it's
Exactly.
even better. To some extent, you could say it was a nightmarish thing because it
In the
was
moment.
in the moment. If you're going to the hospital and you're breaking out in rashes from the anxiety, and then they say, "What, James? What are you working on?" And you say, "It's called Serenity. I'm
Yeah.
working on." No wonder you did a piece of art called Serenity after that.
Yeah,
You know,
I know. I know.
but the plan for the Corwin Galleries brand is still to expand, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, we'll do it again, or I'll do it again. And yeah, I know so much more than I did when I did Aspen. Just now, it's more of timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about your audience, your
Hmm.
customer.
Hmm.
Starting with Montana, starting with the people who come into your gallery
Hmm.
there, and then maybe some of the other artists that you feature.
Sure. Montana is a great state to be an artist in and have a gallery in right now because so many people are moving here. I just found out, I think it was last week, that Montana is the most expensive real estate in the country now,
Oh my gosh.
but by the populace, and not specific to an area, but just statewide. And it is very expensive, but those people who are buying homes and moving in, are a lot of them are wealthy and they're coming to galleries buying art. Like today, this gal just finished renovating her home and she just bought $15,000 worth of art at the gallery. So it's a great, and I don't know exactly how it compares to other places that
Mm-hmm.
receive a lot of tourism, like Jackson Hole or Park City. I just am, basing it off of previous years of owning and being an artist here in the state for the last decade. And the ideal customer are these people that are moving in and buying a new home. But we get people who come in and again, we want to have something for everyone. So we have small paintings and prints that are just a couple $100 all the way up to $20,000, $30,000 pieces. And we also teach them art classes for the community at the art gallery. I teach those during the winter to keep the people engaged in doing
Yeah.
something outside their home a little bit because it could be a sleepy town in the winter. And the artists that I represent there are both emerging artists, young artists in their 20s who are looking for galleries to put their artwork in, all the way up to established and recognizable names. In the Western art field, we do sell a lot of more Western themed art, similar
Mm.
to what I do. But I love representing those younger artists because, in a way, I still feel that I'm emerging and looking for other galleries to pick up my work and, I don't know, feel noticed, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And if I can extend that down to those other young artists who I remember being there and helping them, it makes me feel good.
Yeah. And it's also good for the soul to kind of nurture other artists and not
Hmm.
be worrying about your own art as much as you
Hmm.
might if you turned inward all the time. It's good to
Right,
kind of turn
right.
your energy outward a little bit.
Absolutely.
And speaking of that, so who have your customers been in terms of if you were to start to think, oh, well, I want to open a gallery, there are different personalities everywhere, but is there like a unifying thing or a unifying appeal that you would say your customers, even if you would go to Miami or you'd go to, Alaska, is there
Yeah.
something that they would have in common in terms of their appreciation of your art?
Yes. So with my wildlife art, I'm represented in galleries around the country, and I'm also shipping my artwork and prints to people all over in every state. I send out hundreds of prints a month, and I'm always surprised how often I'm shipping like bison to Florida, for example. I'm like, where are they putting these
Is
things?
it legal to
But
ship bison
I know, right?
to Florida?
Just get me a big enough crate and it'll work.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's crazy. And so Aspen, for example, a lot of the artwork there is very contemporary, very abstract modern work, a lot of what you would see in Miami or New York City, and not a lot of representational work or Western or wildlife. And I wanted to, meet that little niche of people who have a mountain home but want to put something that they might see in their backyard and bring it into their home. And it was well received. People who walked in the galleries like, wow, it's so nice to, see this kind of work like you would see in Jackson Hole or something. It's different here. So when I'm looking at these different places to bring another Corwin Galleries into, it's to meet those people who are interested more in the traditional painting and, something that they might recognize versus like a bunch of pink dots, for example.
Yeah.
Not to criticize that kind of work. It's just it's not the kind of work that I put in the gallery or even begin to know how to market and sell because it's just a completely different style of work than what I'm familiar with.
And that's what it comes down to is really knowing your heart, knowing where your style is, where your expertise is.
Hmm.
It's great that you're sharing your expertise in so many ways through classes and just going in that direction. I guess the last piece to kind of cover is on the horizon, looking ahead, if you visualize at all
Hmm.
what you're, where you'd like to see things go, you
Hmm.
know, what would be a really happy place for you to be a decade or so down the line in terms of what you've built?
Yeah, it's such a great question because I do visualize it a lot and it's often shifting in little ways. And I'll speak on those. I used to want to be famous or recognized, but now I'm like, I want to be able to go out in public and not have people, be like, hey, you're that painter guy on YouTube or on Instagram. So now I'm like, I don't know if I used to think, would it be crazy if Instagram blew up and I got, millions of views
Right.
and stuff for this certain thing that I did. And now I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want that. But I do want to be known for creating a wonderful, great work and having great loyalty with my customers so that I can continue because the people that do buy my art, I create relationships with them if they're open to that because I think it's so important. So I want to, keep building brand and loyalty around who I am as an artist and that people come to me and because they love who I am as a person and my work. And that's what is known, not like just my face, for example.
Yeah.
And I would love to have more gallery locations, but I would like to also build the brand through my work so that somebody might be interested either partnering with me on opening another location or they see the success in my work in the gallery and hey, we would love to open a Corwin Galleries here, almost like in a franchise model sort of way. So I
Yeah.
don't have to be at the, spearheading, trying to manage all these locations and paint at the same time.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
I'm discovering through the process of creating this season of talking to people in different areas of entrepreneurship and different phases is
Hmm.
that there is a place for the relationship, how you build the relationship with your audience that
Hmm.
doesn't overtax your privacy
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
your image. A lot of people think that there's only one way to be a successful brand, and
Hmm.
that is for everybody to know your face or everybody to know your business, and that's not really necessarily true.
Hmm.
The way you connect with customers, even as you grow and
Hmm.
build, let's say, a community around it,
Hmm.
there's a very different, being an influencer on Instagram or TikTok
Hmm.
is where someone is literally marketing their persona
Hmm.
as their
Hmm.
art, right?
Right. That's a good
So
point. Hmm.
if you think about like Mr. Beast on YouTube, or you think about any of these and any of these really influential figures, they are the product, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. And if you're an actor, you're also kind of marketing your presence. You're an endorser or you're this or that. But that isn't the only way to have a personal brand.
Hmm.
That's a
Hmm.
kind of personal brand. Another
Yeah.
kind, um, you know, is I think of like Tommy Hilfiger, right? Tommy
Yeah.
Hilfiger is a name brand, but for many years, people would have a relationship with the brand, but not really know what he looks like. And most people, if they were to see a photo of Tommy Hilfiger, if they're not in the fashion industry or something like that, they wouldn't know necessarily
Yeah.
that it's him, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And
I've
so
I've met him.
oh
He
really?
owns one of my paintings. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, but
funny.
But see, I think of designers
Hmm.
because clothing designers have a degree of celebrity. It's often their name, but
Hmm.
I would say a majority of the people who feel really close to the designers and their work and what it means to them and what they stand for don't really have necessarily a real familiarity with their face. Because
Right.
I'm not a fashion person per se, but I know a lot having worked in the commercial business for so
Yeah.
long, I know
Yeah.
who a lot of the designers are. I'm familiar with tons and
Oh,
tons of
yeah,
brands,
for
but
sure.
I don't know that I could pick them out necessarily
Oh,
in a,
totally.
in
We
a,
were in California at a coffee shop just having coffee together, and everybody's walking by. Nobody knew that I was sitting with Tommy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I thought it was cool.
So
Like
you can
he was
aspire to
good there.
that kind
Yeah.
of impact where
Yeah.
people are really impacted by your work, by your galleries, by
Hmm.
your offerings, but are not necessarily saying, "Oh, there's James Corwin."
Yeah.
Mr. Corwin,
Yeah.
Mr. Corwin, every time you come out of the James,
Oh gosh.
I also used to think that that would be kind of cool, but I
I
don't
know.
I wouldn't want that now. I wouldn't
No,
want every
no.
kind of movement to be news.
No
That's
thanks.
ass. You
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
that moose in that piece of art behind you is like, also kind of I don't think wants every day to be that. Like you think of it as a portrait or
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
moose wouldn't want to pose for that portrait every day and be
Yeah.
stopped on its way to the lake or the whatever it is.
No kidding. I know. It's so
Well,
true.
James, this has been a real pleasure. This has been fun.
Likewise.
Any thoughts you want to share with the audience? The floor is yours.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, there's so many things that I learned and just little nuggets, but the one that I've just been dwelling on a lot lately is just the time it takes to build something great. Takes a lot longer than I thought in my 20s. I thought there's ways you could like fast track it, and maybe there are, but I haven't discovered those secrets. And I think the fact that it does take a long time to build something great is what makes it truly great and strong. And while I'm building is just to really enjoy every single day and the process of it. And that has made it even more fun as a business owner and entrepreneur, is just to enjoy the process and not be so focused on the end goal and if you have achieved it in a certain period of time or not.
Alright.
If you liked the show,
Yes, and?
it worked for you,
Yes, then?
subscribe and leave a
Yes, friend.
5-star review.
Yes, friend.
Tell all your friends.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Did I make it clear?
Yes, friend.
Get your branding on
Yes.
before they're gone.
Yes.